I'm Andrea Shiah. I'm the head of talent strategy and transformation at Eightfold, and I'm thrilled to be here today with Alyson Hudson from Prudential. So it's great to see you, Alyson, and thank you for joining us today at Cultivate.
Hi, Andrea. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. So Prudential is really leading the way with innovative thinking in the talent management space. So I'm really excited to learn a lot from you in our discussion today. To get us started, can you tell us a little bit about your background and role at Prudential?
Absolutely. So, I am the CIO for Human Resources at Prudential. I've been at Prudential for about a year and a half now, and it's been a really exciting journey. We've been going through a lot of transformation, not just in technology, but the company in general. And there's, it's just a really exciting time to be at Prudential.
Yeah, it sounds like it must be. Um, so to get us started, I want to just do a quick icebreaker because we're talking about experience and skills, and this is an interesting question. But what class did you take in school that helped you with your job today?
I don't know if I would say it's a specific class, but I would say anything around public speaking and presentation skills. It's become such an integral part of being in technology, and it didn't always start that way. So it's been something that we really focus on is storytelling and the ability to stand up and present.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. Um, Now, before we talk about kind of what you have done at Prudential, I'd really love to understand more about what was the genesis that led you to really, think about talent management in a transformational way and really put together such a strong strategy.
So it's really a combination. As the company is going through a major transformation, in order to successfully transform, you really need your talent to be transforming along with your company. Potential is unique in the fact that a lot of people have made careers here. There's a tremendous amount of our organization who's been here their whole career. Not uncommon to meet people who have been here for 20, 30 years. It's very important that our people are actually learning the right skills and helping prepare us for transformation. So we need to make sure that we've identified what the skills of the future are, and we make sure we're providing opportunities for our teams and our employees to grow with us so that we can transform.
That's great. That sounds so important with so much that's happening in the marketplace. So tell me a little bit more about the changes you made and what really made them so important to Prudential.
So it was really fun as we're making changes and we're going through an agile transformation in the middle of all of our transformation as an organization. One of the things we realized is we really needed to be able to identify skills rather than experiences that people had and help identify where people need to grow and what opportunities there are in the organization. So we started with a small pilot, which we called our Skills Accelerator. And that's really where we allowed our employees to enter their profile, almost like an internal LinkedIn, if you think about it that way. And our employees were able to update their profile, put in their information, not just their Prudential background, but all about their experiences, because many times our employees have experiences that they're not using in today's workplace, but we need to know that they have them. So we actually encourage people to put their profiles in, upload their LinkedIn or their resume, and it actually extrapolates the skills that you have, and then you can adjust them. And as you're navigating your career, we now provided tools for people to understand what jobs are being posted in the organization. How does your profile match up? What skills do you have? What skills are you missing? And then connecting people to pathways where they can take training to learn the skills that they're missing. So what's been really cool is I can look at any either job in the company. I could look at a person that I aspire to be like and match my profile up against that person to see where I'm strong and where I need to develop. We can connect our employees to career coaches and counselors. So it really was our first way of empowering our employees to really take charge of their career and be curious and hungry and understand what skills they need to be successful and what skills we need to be successful as an organization. As we were doing this, we were also going through a transformation with Workday. So we have implemented Workday actually currently in 18 countries, but we were actually going through our deployment and looking for a candidate relationship management system. Through that journey, we discovered that Eightfold could help us with this process. So now if you think about creating opportunities for employees, we've now created a mechanism of bringing our internal candidates together with our external candidates through the CRM technology. And now you really created an equal playing field for how you advance your career. So we now have track through the work that we're doing with Eightfold of almost everybody in our ecosystem. We know about you if you're an employee. We know about you if you've joined our talent networks on our global career site and you've shared your information. We know about you if you've left the company and you're an alumni. And we know about you if you have applied for a job. So we've been able to pivot from an employee having to apply for a job to sometimes an employee being tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, your skills match this job that's opening up. Are you interested? And having the recruiters reach out and tap our own internal employees on the head for opportunities that come up in the company. And I think that's a really unique position for us, that we are actually recruiting from our own talent pool internally.
It's great that you have the insights to be able to do that. So that's such a significant change for your employees. I'm curious, like what the kind of reaction to it was when you rolled it out. What was kind of the engagement and response?
It's a really good question, and I think it's all over the charts. So managers are really uncomfortable, and it's a new way of managing. When you think about your talent and your teams, we have to get past thinking about our employees as ours and hugging them and holding them and thinking they can only be successful in our organizations, and really adopt the methodology that they're ours to borrow and make them better and create opportunities for them in the organization. So a lot of it is really just getting people to think about talent through a different lens. And also getting past all those, myths that you have to get your manager's permission before you can apply to an internal role, or you need to be in seat for a year before you should be eligible. We don't want to look at people through that lens, because guess what? When external recruiters are looking for your people, they could care less how long they're sitting in that seat. They're looking at the skills and the talent that that person has. And if we're not going to treat our own internal employees the same way an external recruiter is going to treat them, we're going to lose good talent.
That's like such an amazing point that you make. I think what's interesting is when you talk to a lot of companies, they talk about, there's somewhere in the spectrum of, full transparency versus more limited transparency, and giving employees the control, of movement in their career. And so I think there are a lot of companies that are a little bit hesitant about that. They're afraid of poaching. They're afraid of people leaving roles before they're ready for them to move on. And so I'm curious to hear, it sounds like you've got a very clear philosophy at Prudential. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Well, we think it's important for people to go broad and wide. The more you know about the company, the more valuable you are as an employee. So I think that mindset around people having to stay and become experts in a certain area of the business, I think that's an old-fashioned way of looking at talent, and it's a good way to guarantee you're going to lose people. I know we're all laughing and talking about the fact that 1 in 4 people are going to change jobs when we come out of out of COVID. And if we're not creating opportunities for our talent to grow, we're going to lose them. And we're going to lose them to other companies. And in some cases, we're going to lose them to companies that aren't as good as us, but because they're not getting what they need. So you really have to think about talent differently, and you have to think about your employees differently and what's best for them. And the other thing that's really interesting is, as we're using these wonderful tools that we've put in, it helps me view my career through a different lens. I mean, if you think about careers, traditionally people thought about careers as ladders, and in order to grow a career, you had to manage people and move up a ladder. That's really not how careers work. And careers oftentimes are more like, I consider them rock walls. Sometimes you have to step down and pivot right to jump back up. And if you don't know what opportunities or where else to look, it makes it hard to make some of those decisions. So through our skills accelerator and through our talent marketplace, it also helps me understand where else my skills are relevant. I use myself as an example. I've been in corporate technology almost all of my career. And I'm heavily focused in HR technology today, but I've had all areas of corporate throughout all of my career. So when I go into the talent marketplace every day, and I'm very active, I'm always curious what's out there, who's hiring, what opportunities. I get really interesting matches. I get skill matched all the time to HR business partners, chief compliance officers, and people are like, well, that makes absolutely no sense. But actually it makes a lot of sense, because I have a lot of parallel skills. If I decided tomorrow that I didn't want to be in technology anymore and I wanted to try my hand in an HR role, that wouldn't be a far stretch because for so many years I've been working in HR. My skills and experience are a really good match. So it also helps us identify other career opportunities that are adjacent to what we do that we might not have even naturally thought of until it was presented to us. So these tools really just help us navigate our career. So it's obviously as an organization, you have to think about your policies and what your values are and what you care about. We all talk about wanting to upskill, reskill, help our team stay relevant. I really believe we're providing the tools and the technology that help enable that. And I think that's something that Prudential's doing that I'm not seeing many other companies doing in the same spirit as we're doing it.
No, I totally agree. I just love hearing this philosophy and everything that you're sharing. So I'm curious though about so you talked about you had rolled out a new Workday platform and Eightfold at the same time. So I'm curious about what it was that was incremental with Eightfold that enabled, because obviously you've got a new ATS platform and then you've got Eightfold in addition. Like, what was it that Eightfold enabled to your overall capabilities?
So we've actually replaced our entire talent acquisition technology stack. We've created a global experience with Workday from the applicant tracking system. We've created our first ever global career site, which is something I'm super excited about. We've never had that. So no matter what country or company you're applying to Prudential, you come in through the exact same candidate experience. We have the ability also to apply to talent networks. So if someone doesn't see a position that's interesting to them, they're able to actually stay warm and stay connected to us and share information about them. All of that information feeds into the actual candidate relationship management system, which is also part of Eightfold. Really, the secret sauce to how we put this together is our candidate relationship management system is taking the data that it already has through Eightfold about our employee experience. It's marrying it up with the candidates who are actually applying, our internal candidates, people who have left the company, but are still alumni that we're interested in keeping in touch with. And it's also keeping in touch with people who have applied or at least joined our talent networks through our global career site. So the CRM was really a beautiful way of pulling everything together that we were already doing with Eightfold and integrating it into everything that we're doing moving forward. We're also in the process of deploying our early career site. So that'll be the next step in the candidate's journey is the early talent.
Have you worked at all with hiring leaders about requiring certain types of representation or requirements around your slate?
So that's a great question. And yeah, we've actually changed the way we do recruiting. So when the recruiters are looking at the talent pools, they can see the diversity scores in those talent pools before they even release it to the hiring managers. So what we do is we make sure that the hiring manager is actually interviewing a diverse candidate. It happened to me for the first time last week. I'm actually interviewing for a few roles right now. And I got a ping from the recruiter and said, hey, you don't have any men in your interview pool, so you need to go back through those resumes and we need to make sure that you're interviewing a fully diverse candidate pool. So it's really keeping us all honest and in check and making sure that everybody that we talk to is at least the starting point is a diverse candidate pool.
That's great. And so the capability is there now to kind of really review the slates and make sure that they are inclusive. That's fantastic. And then I'm curious too, because you talk about that's such a rich proprietary database you've built. Everything from candidates that have applied, any potential candidates to apply, alumni, existing employees. That's really rich and robust. But Prudential has always had a lot of candidates and employees. I'm curious, like, what has changed? What has Eightfold enabled that was different from the database that you've had in the past?
So really what's changed is how we reach the candidates. In the past, an internal employee had to actually take an action to apply for a job. Oftentimes they believed they needed their manager's approval or there were rules around how long I was in my seat. I can't apply to a new role unless I've been in my seat for a year. Through the work that we're doing with Eightfold, we're really making all of those positions available to everybody. And we also have visibility and transparency. In our Eightfold system, every employee can see every position that's available in the organization and they can match their profile up to see if they're a match, and they can apply seamlessly and transparently, and they don't need anybody's permission. The other thing that we're doing really differently is when we start to screen the candidate pool, we're bringing in our internal talent. If you have a profile set up in our Skills Accelerator, you're already in the candidate pool without even having to apply for the role. We're taking all of the people who have applied to our talent network, or they wanted to stay in touch with us through our career site. We have your information, so you don't necessarily have to apply. Same thing with alumni. So by having people who have applied in the past and didn't get a role, that pool is so rich when we start. Before we even collect a single resume, the recruiters have the ability to see who the skills matches are and actually proactively reach out to people. It's not uncommon in our organization for people to get tapped on the shoulder to say, hey, there's a really cool role. You're a great match. Are you interested in applying to that role? And the employee hasn't even taken a step on their own other than having an active profile in our Skills Accelerator. And I think that's the secret sauce to everything that we're doing.
And how does your business leaders and people leaders, what's their receptivity to this?
So we actually had a very similar experience right on my own team, the team that's developing our talent marketplace. I got a frantic call one day from our product owner, and he had let us know that our, amazing Scrum Master had just accepted a different role in the organization. She had been tapped on the shoulder to be a agile coach for our transformation office, and she accepted the offer, and he was in a panic. And I smiled and I laughed and I said, this is exactly what we're creating. This is what we want to happen. And through that journey, I was able to share with him. I wasn't so upset about it because I had a rock star Scrum Master, up and coming rising star on my team, that we were just having conversations about how do we create an opportunity for him to be on a more strategic project. So I was able to seamlessly bring this other gentleman into the role. He took transition and he's been an absolute rock star, picked up. We haven't lost any steam. He's been able to really just shine in this new role. And by doing that, we actually created another journey on my team for somebody more junior. So now we're going to bring somebody else, and we're going to start to cultivate and bring somebody more junior up for the ride. And the beauty of this is you're creating lanes for people to rise. If people aren't moving organically in your organization, you don't have lanes to bring people up in or opportunities to reevaluate your needs. So it's really just this natural, organic motion of people, and that's really the beauty of the entire thing. And you're keeping your star talent in your organization and preventing them from going out and looking for those great opportunities elsewhere.
To hear you describe it, it seems like common sense, but yet so few companies are approaching it this way. I think there's just some old models that need to be broken, but I agree with you. I think that makes so much sense. In the scenario you just walked through, there's a win-win-win for every party involved. It also seems like there's probably a cost efficiency there too, because to go out and search and look and explore and hopefully find someone, and to get them to come in and really try to ramp up and understand the culture and the organization, seems like there's got to be some cost and time with that and risk.
So we're really not looking at this from the perspective of cost. We're really looking at this through this perspective of talent. What's going to make this work successful? The success is going to be portrayed based on us having the right talent in those key roles at the right time. So that was one thing that Lucian taught me when we first started this journey, was we weren't going to define success based on money. We were going to define success based on talent and how our talent is progressing in our organization. And that stayed near and dear to me.
Yeah, I love that. Right. And that talent and the quality of talent is really what's going to drive the business results. So that's a great way to focus. And so as you take a look at this, like and do you have any early indicators of, things are moving in the right direction or of success?
So we are fairly early in the journey, but we do have some early indications of success. So one of the things we're seeing is a significant rise in internal hires. So we were running in about the 42 to 45% internal placements. that's moved into the mid 50s. So we're seeing a great response on internal mobility. The other place we're seeing great engagement scores is we look at how people are leveraging the platform every month. And what we've noticed in the trends prior to January when we launched the CRM is we had a lot of peaks and valleys where, we would do promotions, we'd have managers getting people involved, the leaders would remind everybody to set up their profile, and you'd see these huge spikes in usage of the tool, but then they would organically come down pretty quickly. And what we've noticed is there's been a stickiness since January where people are starting to understand now how the skills that they're putting in and the profiles that they're setting up. They're hearing all these great success stories of people who are getting internal jobs and promotions or changing career paths. So we're starting to see some stickiness and real climbs in usage numbers and how many people are using career counselors and how many people are applying for jobs. The other thing that we're noticing in the trends is that when you have a manager who is an active user, their teams are active users and they're really engaged. If the managers aren't engaged, the teams are also not engaging. So we're seeing a really strong correlation to the manager behavior, which is not terribly surprising.
Yeah. So one other thing that I also find interesting in our conversation is you're talking about CRM. Your definition of CRM is much bigger than I think what a lot of people think about CRM. When I think about CRM, the traditional way of thinking about it is maybe you have a role, and at that point in time, you just send out notifications or emails and start to go fishing to see who comes back and responds. Your vision of CRM is so much bigger.
That's actually the secret sauce of what we brought together. We're keeping all of this wonderful information, and we have a huge database of potential candidates between our internal candidates, our external candidates who have applied and maybe not gotten positions. We have people who are just curious and want to learn more through our talent network. So we've already got a whole database of people that we can plug into before we even place an ad or a listing for a job. So I think that makes us very unique. We have a very strong start point, and it also allows us to keep in close touch with our candidates. And that's actually the beauty of this whole thing. Even just hiring an internal versus an external candidate, having the ability for us to recruit and look at internal candidates next to external and really understand the skills matches. And sometimes the external candidate has one or two more skills than the internal, but the internal's been part of our company for a really long time. So they're able to hit the ground running and they understand how to navigate the organization. So suddenly when you look at it through that lens, there really isn't such a skills gap after all. So I think that information just allows our recruiters to be much more effective and get the best candidates in the role right from the get-go, because you're looking at everything together. You're not looking at external candidates differently than internally. You're actually seeing everybody together.
I want to ask you one other question, because I think there's a lot that you're reading now, about talent and the different trends in the jobs market, and there's a new term that's emerging called the Great Resignation. So surveys have been done that are finding that there's a lot of employees that are indicating they might be leaving their companies in the coming months, and they're open to leaving their companies in the coming months. And so there's this term called the Great Resignation. So I'm curious what your thoughts are about these changes that you've made at Prudential and how you think they're going to help or not help Prudential with this trend that's emerging.
That's a really tough question to answer. It's so hard to predict that. I think, for people who are planning to leave their roles, there's so many drivers to what's causing people to feel that way. I think there's some percentage of people that if, I find that even through my friends, some people are reevaluating their careers and they're making decisions that, maybe I want to step down a little bit. And I learned through the pandemic that family time or having dinner with my children is more important. So you're going to find people that are looking for alternative types of roles. I think you're going to see people who are leaving their roles because, they were perfectly happy working remote and now they're being asked to go back into the office a certain amount of days. Or some people who are really unhappy working remote and their companies are asking them to stay remote and not go back to the office. So I don't think we're solving for all the reasons people might be looking for a job, but I do think where someone's really assessing their career and maybe changing their career aspirations or deciding they want to take a slightly different track, I think we'll make a difference on that side. But then the other beauty of that is I'm recruiting a few roles right now and I'm seeing some amazing resumes. So as people are hitting the market, the benefit too is we're getting a lot of active engagement from candidates we might not have gotten 2 years ago. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, but a little hard to predict that right now.
So lots of great things happening at Prudential. So I'm curious, what's next? What's coming up next that's on your ideas of transformation?
So we're still working on our talent marketplace. So we're starting to investigate gig opportunities. We're starting to work on our managers' corner. So we want to make sure that our managers have a way to understand the skills that their teams have, where their strengths are, where they've got skills gaps. We've got a whole lot of things in the work. We're going to be introducing mentoring. So we're going to keep building on this momentum.
That sounds great. So thank you, Alyson. This has been an amazing discussion. Congratulations to you for being such an innovator. I think you're really leading the way. Lots of insights on kind of your practices and your vision. Looking forward to hearing more and continuing to watch your success.
Thank you.